I thought 23 years of marriage meant something. Then I caught her coming home at 1 a.m., hair disheveled, dress riding up her thighs. The look in her eyes wasn't guilt. It was annoyance that I'd caught her. What she didn't know, I was about to become her worst nightmare. My name is Grant Pearson. I'm 49 years old, and I own a specialized fishing equipment company that I built from nothing. 25 years of sweat and calluses went into Pearson Precision Tackle, and I was proud of what I'd created. For most of those years, I thought I had a partner who was proud too. Turns out, pride and loyalty aren't the same thing. The Thursday night when everything fell apart, I was supposed to be in Portland at a suppliers conference. A burst pipe at the venue meant everything got postponed until the next day. I didn't call to tell Maureen. I just drove home, thinking I'd surprise her, maybe suggest a rare evening together. Her car wasn't in the driveway when I pulled up. No big deal, I figured. Her boutique sometimes had evening events for clients. Vintage Revival had been her passion project for nearly a decade, and lately, she'd been pouring herself into its social media presence, building the brand, as she kept saying. I settled in, grabbed a beer, and waited. 1 hour turned into 2. 2 became 3. I checked her boutique's Instagram. No events posted for tonight. I texted. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. By midnight, my stomach felt like I'd swallowed broken glass. This wasn't like her. Or maybe it was exactly like her now, and I just hadn't been paying attention. At 12:47 a.m., headlights swept across the living room walls. I heard her car door, then silence, like she was sitting there, preparing herself. I switched off the lamp and sat in darkness, feeling my heart hammer against my ribs. She stumbled slightly coming through the door. Not drunk, just careless, confident that she was alone. Her hair was different than it had been this morning, styled in a way she never wore it for me anymore. Her dress rode high on her thighs, and there was a small tear in the seam near her hip. She hummed to herself, a little tune I didn't recognize, as she dropped her purse on the entryway table. When she hit the light switch, she froze. There I was, sitting in my own living room, like an intruder in my own life. "Grant, Jesus Christ," she gasped, her hand flying to her throat. "What are you doing here? I thought you were in Portland." "Conference got delayed," I said, my voice unnaturally calm. Pipe burst. "Where have you been, Maureen?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, transforming from surprise to something harder. "You could have called," she said, not answering my question. "You scared the hell out of me." I stood up slowly, studying her like I was seeing her for the first time. "You didn't answer my question." She sighed, irritation flashing across her face. "I was with Jen, having drinks after a pop-up event. My phone died." The lie hung between us, as tangible as furniture. Maureen stepped further into the living room, kicking off her heels with practiced flicks of her ankles. The motion felt rehearsed, casual, like she was trying to normalize coming home at nearly 1 a.m. from a non-existent event. "You don't believe me," she said, reading my expression. "Should I?" I asked. My voice remained steady, though I felt like a volcano building pressure beneath the surface. She ran her fingers through her styled hair, messing it up deliberately, as if erasing evidence. "I don't know what you want me to say, Grant. I told you where I was." I stood up, moving into the kitchen where the overhead light cast harsh shadows. "Call Jen, then. Right now." "Don't be ridiculous," Maureen snapped. "It's after midnight." "Exactly my point," I said. "If you were just having drinks after a pop-up, call her. Prove it." Her eyes narrowed to slits. "I don't need to prove anything to you. When did you become so controlling?" The audacity of her accusation hit me like a physical blow. 23 years together, and I'd never once checked her phone, questioned her whereabouts, or demanded explanations. Until tonight. "This isn't about control," I said. "It's about respect. The respect you apparently don't have for me, for our marriage, or even for yourself." She laughed then, a sound I'd once found beautiful, but now felt like ice water down my spine. "Listen to yourself," she said. "One night, I come home late, and suddenly I'm disrespecting our entire marriage. You sound pathetic." "Who is he?" I asked softly. The question hung between us like a live wire. For a heartbeat, surprise registered on her face before she recovered. "There's no he," she sighed, moving toward the stairs. "I'm going to bed. You're being paranoid, and I'm too tired for this." I blocked her path, not touching her, but making it impossible to pass without physical contact. Your dress is torn. Her hand flew to the small rip near her hip. I caught on a chair at the bar. Jesus, Grant, what's gotten into you? 23 years, Maureen, I said. That's what's gotten into me. 23 years. And you can't even give me the dignity of the truth. You want the truth? She hissed, her eyes suddenly alive with something like hatred. The truth is I'm suffocating in this marriage. The truth is you haven't really seen me in years. You're so wrapped up in your precious fishing tackle business that you've forgotten how to be a husband. I stepped back as if she pushed me. And that justifies lying? That makes it okay to come home at 1 a.m. smelling like someone else's cologne. Her face paled slightly. She hadn't realized I could smell it. Subtle, but unmistakable. Not my brand. Never my brand. I want a name, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Maureen lifted her chin. His name is none of your business. And unlike you, he actually pays attention to me. I watch her walk upstairs, each step deliberate, her back straight with defiance. I didn't follow. Instead, I sat back down in the dark living room, feeling something final snap inside me. Not my heart. That would come later. This was the sound of respect breaking. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my workshop behind a garage, running my fingers over the custom fishing rod I'd been building. Craftsmanship had always cleared my head. The precision required left no room for distraction. By dawn, I had clarity. This wasn't a sudden change in Maureen. It was the culmination of something that had been building for years. When I came into the kitchen, she was already there, dressed for work in an outfit I'd never seen before. Tight black pants, a low-cut blouse that revealed more than it concealed. Not the Maureen who'd stood beside me building Pearson precision tackle. This was her new persona, the social media boutique owner chasing validation. Coffee's fresh, she said without looking at me, scrolling through her phone. We need to talk, I said, pouring a cup. About last night? I'd rather not, Maureen replied dismissively. You were being paranoid and controlling. It wasn't attractive. I set my mug down with a decisive thud. 23 years deserves more than avoidance, Maureen. I deserve more. She finally looked up, irritation flashing across her face. What do you want from me, Grant? The truth, I said simply. No more games. There's no game, she shot back. I stayed out late with a friend. You turned it into an interrogation. I leaned against the counter, studying her. How long have you been seeing him? The slightest tension around her eyes betrayed her. There's no him. Let me rephrase. I said evenly. How long have you been sleeping with someone else? She stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. I don't have to listen to this. You don't, I agreed. But walking away just confirms what I already know. Maureen grabbed her purse, voice rising. What you know is delusional. You've spent so many years obsessing over your fishing gear that you've neglected everything else, including me. So, instead of talking to me about it, you found someone else, I concluded calmly. Her silence was damning. His name is Cody, she finally said, chin lifting defiantly. He models for the boutique's Instagram. He's 29, and he makes me feel alive again. The age hit me like a physical blow. 29, nearly 20 years younger. How long? I repeated. 3 months, she said, watching me carefully. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. Maybe it's something else. Either way, it happened. No remorse. No apology. Just cold facts delivered like a weather report. Does he know you're married? I asked, voice steady despite the storm inside me. She looked away briefly. Yes. And he doesn't care. He understands me, she said, the implication clear. Unlike you. I nodded slowly, decision cementing. I'll be moving my things into the guest room today. Surprise flashed across her face. She'd expected tears, begging, perhaps even violence. Anything but calm resolve. Just like that? She asked. No. I corrected her. Not just like that. After 23 years, 3 months of lies, and this conversation where you haven't once said you're sorry. I walked past her toward the door, then stopped. I built Pearson precision tackle with these hands, Maureen. I can rebuild my life with them too. The weekend passed in a cold war of silence. Maureen spent most of it at the boutique, or so she claimed. I didn't ask where she really was. I didn't need to anymore. By Monday morning, I had consulted with James Harrington, an old fishing buddy who happened to be one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. His advice was blunt but necessary. Document everything, protect your assets, and don't leave the house, he told me over coffee at his office. She cheated, but Oregon's no-fault divorce laws don't care. It's about division of property now, and Pearson Precision Tackle is on the line. I spent that afternoon in my home office, pulling together financial records. 23 years of marriage meant our lives were thoroughly entangled, but I'd always kept meticulous business records. Maureen had never shown interest in the day-to-day operations of my company. That would work in my favor now. When she came home that evening, I was organizing documents at the dining room table. She paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. "Spring cleaning?" she asked, her tone falsely light. "Something like that," I replied without looking up. "How was your day?" She set down her keys, circling the table cautiously. "Fine. Busy. What are you doing with all these papers?" I finally met her eyes. "Preparing. James Harrington is handling my divorce filing." Her face flushed. "Divorce? You're jumping straight to divorce without even trying to work things out." The audacity nearly made me laugh. "What exactly would working things out look like, Maureen? You continuing to sleep with a 29-year-old while I pretend not to know?" "It doesn't have to be like this," she said, her voice softening into a tone I recognized from countless sales pitches. "We could try counseling. Take some time." "What?" I asked simply. "Do you love him?" She looked away. "It's not about love. That makes it worse, not better," I pointed out. "And you didn't answer my question." Maureen's expression hardened. "You're being cruel." "No," I said firmly. "I'm being direct. Something you might want to try." She stalked to the liquor cabinet, poured herself a generous whiskey. "So what's your plan?" "Burn everything to the ground because I made one mistake." 3 months of conscious choices isn't one mistake, I responded. "And I'm not burning anything. I'm salvaging what matters." She took a long drink, eyes narrowing. "Your precious business, you mean?" "Among other things." I returned to my papers. "You'll be hearing from James tomorrow. I suggest you find representation." "You can't afford to buy me out," she said, a threat underlying her words. "I'm entitled to half of everything." I looked up, meeting her gaze steadily. "You're entitled to half of our marital assets, yes. But the prenup you signed specifically protects business assets I brought into the marriage." Her face paled. After 23 years, she'd forgotten about the prenup her father had insisted was unnecessary. "I never thought I'd need it either, but I'd never thrown it away." "That prenup is ancient history," she sputtered. "It's still legally binding," I replied calmly. "James confirmed it this morning." For the first time since this began, Maureen looked genuinely shaken. The power was shifting, and we both felt it. "You've been planning this," she accused. I shook my head. "No, Maureen. You planned this the moment you decided our vows meant nothing." 3 days after my conversation with Maureen about the prenup, I received a call from an unknown number. The woman on the other end didn't identify herself immediately. "Is this Grant Pearson?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "Speaking," I replied, setting down the custom fly rod I'd been working on. "My name is Vanessa," she said. "I work at Vintage Revival. I think we should talk." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from a nervous young woman at a coffee shop 3 towns over, where Maureen wouldn't accidentally spot us. "I shouldn't be doing this," Vanessa said, fidgeting with her cup. "But what's happening isn't right." "What exactly is happening?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Cody isn't just modeling for the boutique. He's using Maureen to finance his lifestyle while he pursues other women." I leaned back, absorbing this information. "Go on." "Last week, I overheard them arguing in her office. He told her she needed to secure more assets before leaving you." Vanessa looked genuinely distressed. "She mentioned your prenup, and he got angry, saying she promised him you'd be an easy mark." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "Did she mention specific plans?" Vanessa nodded. "She's been transferring inventory from the boutique to a storage unit. Expensive vintage pieces off the books. And she's planning to claim the business as failing to reduce its value in the divorce." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, studying her carefully. Her eyes met mine directly. "My parents divorced when I was 16 because my mom cheated. She took my dad for everything. He never recovered." She paused. "Also, Maureen isn't the boss she pretends to be. She belittles us, takes credit for our work." I nodded slowly. "I appreciate the risk you're taking." "There's more," Vanessa said, sliding a phone across the table. Maureen left this at the shop yesterday. Her passcode is your anniversary. I thought that was ironic. I stare at the device. I'm not going to snoop through her phone. You don't have to, Vanessa replied. Just look at the text messages from Cody. They're already open. Against my better judgment, I glanced at the screen. What I saw confirmed everything Vanessa had told me, and worse. There were messages about selling my custom fishing equipment collection, valued at over $100,000. References to moving funds offshore. Plans to claim emotional abuse to circumvent the prenup. I need to return this before she notices, Vanessa said, taking back the phone. But I took screenshots. I'll email them to you. After she left, I sat alone, processing this new information. The woman I'd spent 23 years with wasn't just having an affair. She was actively conspiring to destroy me. I called James immediately. We need to accelerate everything, I told him. And I need a forensic accountant to look at the boutique's books. This serious? He asked. More than I imagined. I replied. She's not just leaving. She's scorching the earth behind her. The forensic accountant James hired found discrepancies in Vintage Revival's books within days. Inventory worth over $200,000 had vanished in the last 3 months. Cash deposits didn't match sales records. Maureen had been bleeding the business systematically, preparing for her exit. Meanwhile, I focused on protecting Pearson Precision Tackle. I called an emergency meeting with my 3 most trusted employees and laid everything on the table. I'm facing a contentious divorce, I told them frankly. My wife may target the business. I need your help securing our future. Mike, my production manager of 15 years, didn't hesitate. Whatever you need, Grant. We've got your back. I implemented new security protocols for the workshop, changed all passwords, moved our most valuable equipment to a secure facility, documented every custom piece in my collection with photos and professional appraisals. When I returned home that evening, Maureen was waiting, dressed to impress in an outfit that once would have taken my breath away. Now I only noticed the calculation in her eyes. We need to talk, she said, her voice deliberately gentle. This divorce thing is getting out of hand. Maybe we rushed into decisions. I set down my keys. Which decisions would those be? Fighting like this, she replied, moving closer. We built a life together, Grant. 23 years. That deserves a second chance, doesn't it? I maintained distance between us. Interesting timing for reconciliation. Did something change? Her smile faltered slightly. I've been doing some thinking. Maybe Cody was just a symptom of problems we can fix. What happened, Maureen? Did he move on to a wealthier target? Her eyes narrowed momentarily before she recovered. That's cruel. I'm trying to save our marriage. No, I countered calmly. You're trying to salvage your plans. Let me guess. The prenup is holding up better than Cody hoped? Or did the storage unit with the boutique's missing inventory get discovered? The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? The forensic audit of Vintage Revival. The documented conspiracy between you and Cody to circumvent the prenup. The plan to claim emotional abuse. I kept my voice steady. Did I miss anything? You're spying on me? She hissed, facade crumbling. No need, I replied. People talk, Maureen. Especially people you underestimate. She backed away, recalculating. Whatever you think you know, save it. I interrupted. James has everything. The DA might be interested too, considering the potential fraud charges. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I don't want to, I admitted. Despite everything, I don't want to see you in legal trouble. But I will protect what's mine. Her eyes filled with frustrated tears. What do you want? A clean break, I said simply. You keep the house and a fair settlement. I keep the business and my collection. No claims against each other. No dragging this through court. And if I refuse, then we do this the hard way, I replied, with all evidence on the table. She studied me for a long moment, perhaps seeing for the first time that the patient, trusting man she'd married had been replaced by someone who couldn't be manipulated. I'll have my lawyer call James, she finally said, voice cold with defeat. The meeting took place in James Harrington's office, neutral territory with witnesses. Maureen arrived with her attorney, a sharp-dressed woman with a reputation for aggressive tactics in divorce cases. I recognized her from local legal circles, Patricia Dawson, who specialized in circumventing prenups. James greeted them cordially, then got straight to business. We've prepared a settlement proposal that's fair to both parties. Patricia scoffed. We'll be the judge of that. As James outlined the terms, Maureen would keep the house and a cash settlement. I would retain full ownership of Pearson Precision Tackle and my equipment collection. Patricia's expression darkened. This is insulting, she interjected. Mrs. Pearson is entitled to a significant portion of the business she helped build. I remained silent, letting James handle the negotiation. We have documentation proving the business was established and profitable before the marriage, James replied. The prenuptial agreement is clear on this point. Patricia leaned forward. Prenups can be invalidated if signed under duress or if they're unconscionable. James smiled thinly. We anticipated that argument. He slid a folder across the table. These documents demonstrate Mrs. Pearson's systematic diversion of assets from her boutique in preparation for divorce. We also have evidence of conspiracy to claim emotional abuse where none existed. The color drained from Maureen's face. She whispered something to Patricia, who frowned deeply. May we have the room for a moment? Patricia requested. Once they left, James turned to me. They'll counter, but we have them backed into a corner. When they returned, Maureen wouldn't meet my eyes. Patricia's demeanor had shifted from aggressive to pragmatic. We're prepared to accept most of your terms, she said. However, we request an additional $50,000 in the settlement and continued health insurance coverage for 1 year. James looked to me. I nodded once. Acceptable, he replied. We'll draw up the revised agreement today. As the lawyers finalized details, Maureen finally spoke directly to me. You were always smarter than I gave you credit for. No, I corrected her. You just underestimated how much others see your true character. Her eyes narrowed. Vanessa. She betrayed me. She chose integrity. I replied. Something you might want to consider. Maureen gathered her purse. You know what's ironic? Cody left me last week. Said I was too much drama. I felt no satisfaction at her pain, just a profound weariness. I'm sorry it ended this way. She studied me for a moment. Are you really? Yes. I answered honestly. 23 years deserved better than this. For a brief moment, I glimpsed regret in her eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by the cold calculation I'd come to recognize. The house will need a new roof next year, she said, turning to leave. Just so you know. I watched her walk away, realizing the woman I had married had disappeared long before I'd noticed her absence. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in the new Pearson Precision Tackle workshop on the outskirts of town. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the custom rods displayed on the reclaimed wood walls. The expansion had been a risk, but a calculated one that was already paying off. The bell above the door chimed as Mike entered, carrying a box of specialty components from Japan. Final shipments here, he announced, setting it on the workbench. We're officially ready for the Sports Expo next month. I nodded, surveying the space with quiet satisfaction. Reserve an extra booth. Our custom fly collection deserves its own showcase. Mike hesitated. Heard anything from Maureen lately? I shook my head. According to mutual friends, she'd sold the house and moved to Phoenix, chasing some opportunity with a boutique chain. The boutique here had closed within months of our divorce. The inventory, too, depleted to sustain it. Better this way, I replied honestly. The shop door opened again, and Vanessa walked in. After Vintage Revival closed, I'd hired her to manage our online presence and customer service. Her integrity had proven as valuable as her skills. The website traffic doubled after that feature in Angler's Monthly, she reported, tablet in hand. We've got pre-orders for the limited edition series through next quarter. I smiled. Schedule a team dinner to celebrate. The Lakeside Grill, Friday night. After they left, I remained in the workshop, working on a particularly intricate custom rod for a longtime client. The rhythmic precision calmed me the way it always had, but now without the underlying tension that had haunted my home for years. My phone buzzed with a text from James Harrington. Lunch tomorrow? Have news you might find interesting. The following day, at a quiet corner table in James's favorite steakhouse, he passed me a newspaper clipping. Thought you should see this. It was a small article from a Phoenix business journal. Vintage boutique files bankruptcy amid fraud allegations. Maureen's name appeared in the second paragraph. She tried the same game with her new partners, James explained. They weren't as forgiving as you. I set the clipping aside. Not our concern anymore. James studied me. You've changed, Grant. The man I met a year ago would have felt vindicated. That man was still hoping to save something already lost, I replied. I'm more interested in building than salvaging now. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a notification from our online store. Another large order from an international client. Business is good? James asked. Better than ever, I confirmed. Turns out focusing on what I do best was the right move all along. On my drive back to the workshop, I passed the street leading to what used to be our home. For the first time, I didn't feel the pull to turn down it. Didn't feel the weight of memories there. At 49, I'd started over. Not from scratch. I'd built too much to ever truly start from nothing, but with a clarity that only comes from weathering a storm you didn't see coming. The business was thriving, my craft was evolving, and the future stretched out with possibilities I hadn't allowed myself to imagine during those final years with Maureen. That evening, standing alone in my new workshop as the sun set beyond the windows, I realized something important. I was happy, not despite the painful ending of my marriage, but because it had freed me to rediscover myself. A year had passed since the divorce. Pearson Precision Tackle had been selected to showcase at the National Fishing Expo in Chicago, the industry's premier event. Standing at our booth, surrounded by our finest custom rods, I felt a quiet pride in what we'd built. Mr. Pearson, a middle-aged man, approached, examining one of our signature fly rods. Remarkable craftsmanship. Thank you, I replied, recognizing him as Thomas Reeves, owner of a prestigious fishing lodge chain. This new series uses a carbon fiber technique we developed last spring. He tested the rod's balance. I like to place an order for all my locations. Your reputation for quality precedes you. After discussing details, we shook hands on what would be our largest wholesale account to date. As he left, I noticed a familiar figure 3 booths down, Maureen. She looked different. The designer clothes replaced by something simpler. Her carefully maintained appearance slightly faded. She was speaking with a vendor, gesturing emphatically about something. I considered avoiding her, but when she turned and saw me, that option vanished. After a moment's hesitation, she approached. Grant, she said, voice carefully neutral. I heard your company would be here. Maureen, I nodded. Didn't expect to see you in this industry. I'm working with Western Outfitters now, she explained, developing their apparel line. An awkward silence stretched between us. I saw the feature on your expansion in Business Monthly, she finally said. Congratulations. Thank you. I kept my tone professional. How's Phoenix? Her expression tightened. I'm back in Oregon now. Phoenix didn't work out. I knew about the bankruptcy and fraud allegations, but saw no need to mention them. The new clothing line is my fresh start, she continued, something almost humble in her voice. Learning from past mistakes. Before I could respond, Mike called me over for an important client. I excused myself, relieved for the interruption. Later that evening, alone in my hotel room, I reflected on the encounter. Seeing Maureen had stirred fewer emotions than expected. No anger, no lingering attraction, just a recognition of someone from a previous chapter of my life. My phone chimed with a text from Vanessa. Reeves order confirmed. Team celebrating back home. I smiled, typing my response. Tomorrow I'd fly back to a business that was thriving, a workshop that felt like home, and colleagues who had become something like family. The past year had taught me that endings, however painful, often clear the path for better beginnings. At 50, I had found my second act, not despite Maureen's betrayal, but because of the strength I'd discovered in its aftermath. 2 years after the divorce, I stood on the deck of my new lakeside cabin, casting a line into the golden reflection of sunset. This property, 20 acres of wooded shoreline, had been a dream deferred during my marriage. Now it served as both personal retreat and testing ground for new tackle designs. The phone rang, breaking the evening's stillness. It was James Harrington. Just checking in, he said. The patent application for your new reel design was approved. That's great news, I replied, reeling in my line. We'll start production next month. After discussing legal details, James's tone shifted. Ran into Maureen yesterday at the courthouse. My grip tightened slightly on the rod. Oh, she asked about you, he continued. Seemed genuinely interested in how you're doing. And how is she? I asked, surprised by my own curiosity. Managing, James replied carefully. The Western Outfitters venture is stable, but nothing like what she had with you. After hanging up, I gazed across the lake, contemplating how life had changed. At 51, I'd found peace I'd never expected after such betrayal. The business had evolved beyond my ambitious projections. The team had grown to 15 dedicated craftspeople. Our custom rods now carried a 6-month waiting list. More importantly, my passion for the craft had deepened, unencumbered by the shadow of a failing marriage. Occasionally, I'd hear about Maureen through mutual acquaintances. She'd never rekindled things with Cody, who had apparently moved to California with someone new. She dated briefly, but nothing lasted. The confidence that had once bordered on arrogance had been tempered by consequence. I felt no satisfaction in her struggles, just a distant compassion for someone who had once shared my life. The dinner invitation for Vanessa had surprised me last month. Nothing romantic, just two friends enjoying a meal. Yet something about her straightforward integrity resonated with me in a way I hadn't expected. We'd agreed to take things slowly, both carrying our own histories. As dusk settled over the lake, I cast my line once more. The perfect arc, the gentle landing on the water's surface, it reminded me of life's resilience. How even after disruption, ripples eventually smooth into new possibilities. I had survived betrayal not by hardening, but by recommitting to authenticity. The man I'd become wasn't defined by Maureen's choices, but by my response to them. Patient, deliberate, true to myself and my craft. This, the cabin, the business, the peace I'd found, was the legacy of choosing dignity over vengeance, of rebuilding rather than merely recovering. At the water's edge, watching the first stars reflect on the lake's surface, I knew with certainty this was exactly where I was meant to be.